if you're not willing to put in the work, you cannot really expect to reap the outcome. A lot of people just have this mistaken belief that they can film a video on TikTok, get 1 million followers just like that, and then live scot-free for the rest of their life. Even among like internet influencers, you see beefs and rivalries all over the place. These people have worked very hard to get to where they're at, and then they have beef with other people that have done the same, as opposed to having mutual respect. There's no Staples easy button. There's no easy path in life. There is hard and there is other hard. You either choose to put in the hard work for a defined period of time and then be able to benefit on the back end, or
manifested it. You lucked out.
Enough attempts and at-bats and enough work creates luck. It turns out that luck is a matter of having enough. Today, we're going to the Wayback Machine to get some gendered advice from the 1900s. It turns out heroes read poetry too.
Get your tea and crumpets ready.
Tea and crumpets. Let's go. So today we're going to go ahead and dig into some timeless wisdom from the early 20th century and kind of do a compare and contrast between gender roles and visions for masculinity and femininity between the 20th century and today. And for reference, we're going to go ahead and reference 2 poems. The first of which is by Joseph Kipling, which is If. It was written in 1895, originally as advice to his own son, and then it was more popularly published in 1910. The second poem is by J.P. McCovey, which is If for Girls, which was published in 1926. So about 100 years ago is when these things were written, a little bit more for Joseph Kipling. For those of you who don't know, he happened to also write the Jungle Book. My wife would go ahead and tell me that I'd be remiss if I didn't go ahead and mention that, because you wouldn't know who he was otherwise.
No, he goes by his middle name, Rudyard Kipling.
Rudyard Kipling? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and look him up by that, that's the way to do it. We'll also have links in the description below for it, so if you wanted to go ahead and follow along. So the idea for this is we're going to go ahead and read the first poem in its entirety, and then we're going to go through section by section and kind of go through some of the insights and maybe where it applies today and maybe where things are a little bit different in the marketplace. And then we're going to go ahead and read the other poem in its entirety and go through that line by line. You ready for the journey?
Always.
All right.
Poetry Corner with Mike and Dawn.
Poetry Corner with Mike and Dawn. That's what we're doing today.
I feel like we should be drinking tea.
Well, you kind of are drinking tea. You got green. There's green tea in there. There you go. See,
and you got it for me.
I got it for you specially for this. It's almost like I had thought it through. Huh. Funny how this works. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go through If by Joseph Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or be lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make your thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on, there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Pretty powerful words for a dad to go ahead and give to his son. Yeah. Like there's a lot there. So we're going to go ahead and go through it piece by piece and talk through it a little bit. So it starts off with, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. What does that say to you?
That says that is very indicative of modern culture. Like all the more. Like ish hits the fan kind of situation.
Sure.
And you're the one who's like got a direction and you're like, here's what we need to do. Let's just go. And people get mad at you because you're the one who actually is proposing a plan and everybody just wants to say, but this, but that.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to go ahead and complain about something than it is to create something in the first place, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of like leadership and, having vision and, having the skills. And these are pretty much all of these if statements give character traits.
Right. Or some kind of challenge to it.
And then so like basically the structure is you meet all these statements and the end couplet or whatever is what you get for that.
Sure.
But you have to do all the things first.
Right.
Which is, a demonstration of character.
I think that this really goes ahead and speaks to mental clarity, even when people are being crazy around you. Mm-hmm. So I think that we're definitely on the same page with that. So the second piece, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too.
I love that. Because just when, you have this self-assuredness because of your vision and you're like, we've always talked about this, like have goals in mind, have a direction that you're going in, and anybody else who wants to come along, great. If they don't, it doesn't matter. You are going to stand and walk in that conviction rather than let the they-thems get inside your head and tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's nuts. And you're dumb and all this stuff. It's like, okay, cool story, bro. I'm still doing this way. But there's a directive to maintain an air of civility and respect of other people who have their own opinions, their own viewpoints, and all of that, and this comes down to the premise of disagreeing without being disagreeable.
Sure, and I think that's a lost art in today's society, right? The thing that these two lines talk to me about is it's important to have clarity of conviction, which you talked about, but I think it's also opens the door that you have to also have the humility to understand that there may be parts of that conviction that you are not entirely clear on, and that there is chance for you to go ahead and improve upon that, right? Because maybe you've got a blind spot, and if somebody goes ahead and brings that to you, I think that that's a wonderful service to provide to somebody if they are, walking on their path, and you can go ahead and help adjust their crown a little bit. I think that's a really important thing to be willing to provide as a service to people that are within your circle, and also to be willing to be humble enough to accept that correction from others.
This is one of those clues to the culture of generations past, where you could find more of that difference in perspective and, more like these nuggets of, oh, that's an interesting thing. I should take it under advisement. Mainly because people do not know how to infuse an actual point of substance in this way. They'll just come at you entirely incorrect. I know it's incorrectly, but, come correct. So
I get what you're saying.
You come incorrect, the opposite of that. People just approach that, even though they actually do have a valid point, it is shrouded in so much, like in a posture of disrespect.
Well, I think a lot of that comes from the general anonymity of the internet.
Yeah,
where a lot of people feel a lot more comfortable saying wild things to people that they would never say face to face, right? We talked in times past about how in conversations among men, there is always an underlying current that if things go sideways, things can get physical, right? Because that's the underlying threat that exists between men. Whereas with women, that's not the case. With women, you see really more backstabbery and social and reputational damage rather than a drive for physicality, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So the next set is, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. I guess I'll go ahead and go
One
on
at a
with,
time.
well, with the next one, because this is all a consolidated deal.
Yeah.
Or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. I think it's one big block, but three distinct ideas.
Well, you see in each of the lines, it's like this dichotomy, this polarity you see.
Okay?
Clearly the first one just sticks out like a glaring red alert.
Oh, if you can wait and
Yeah.
not be tired by waiting?
When you juxtapose the culture's past,
Okay.
you know, and where that was just like it's a thing with everybody. It's a universal thing. It's difficult to, especially with things of value, over the span of a lifetime.
What do you mean in
Because
this
this is
context?
what we're talking about. We're talking about a dad giving advice to his kid, right?
Sure.
You know, and we're talking about general life success. So if you're talking about over a lifetime or even over the span of from childhood, adolescence to manhood, that's years. And it's hard to kind of carefully cultivate something you might not see the fruits of the labor for some time.
Okay, so you're talking generally speaking about patience.
Yeah, patience, and like it's more prevalent now in this like culture of instant gratification.
Yeah. If you were to go ahead and provide this advice, it would be very difficult for most people to follow through with it,
Especially-
just because they have such short attention spans, generally speaking. And then, like you said, they have a hard time planting with the harvest in mind.
Especially in this current generation of fresh adults. You know, we are now in our, you know, in middle age.
Right.
So like the kids that are, you know, like Gen Z, I guess is now, is that what?
Gen Alpha are the people that are the class of 25.
But even in the younger parts of our millennial, you know, cohort,
Right, because we're older millennials.
Yeah. we hit adulthood. We were told, oh, you can do anything you want to, blah, blah, blah. The world is yours, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, this is hard. I can't do this. And they just like roll over and just take it rather than, well, yeah, things that are of great significance and import, that's difficult. You know, living is hard. Living well is even harder. Choose your hard.
Yeah, and that's the trick is like there is no like easy button. That's the trick that well, there's no Staples easy button. There's no like easy path in life. There is hard and there is other hard, and you either choose to go ahead and put in the hard work for a defined period of time and then be able to benefit on the back end, or you can go ahead and live a mediocre life for your entire existence and be barely surviving at the end of it. Both of those paths have difficulty associated with them. Both of them have benefits.
We've seen in our own experience, in our own sphere of influence, they're sitting there and struggling in the mediocrity, like in making that bare minimum. They can't even wrap their mind around the fact that there is something greater because they can't see past literally the end of their nose or like, you know, from hand to mouth.
Sure, but I think a lot of that has to do with the consequences of choices made along the way, and that we have social programming that tells us that life should be this or life should be that. Who says any of that should be the case? I would say that it is much more important for each person to define what should be the case for themselves and to act in accordance with that.
But then you look at people who look across the table, especially, you know, in our direction we've seen, and that's where the must be nice line comes from.
Yeah, so I don't really care if they're not willing to put in the work.
I think we got lucky.
Sure, but the thing is, enough attempts and at-bats and enough work creates luck. It turns out that luck is a matter of having enough at-bats more than anything else. And if you're not willing to put in the work, you cannot really expect to reap the outcome. I think a lot of people just have this mistaken belief that they can go ahead and just film a video on TikTok and get 1 million followers just like that and then live, you know, scot-free for the rest of their life.
Live internet famous ever after.
Live internet famous ever after, right? It's just not a realistic thing that exists in life.
Well, especially when you're looking at people who do achieve this level of success in that sphere. And one thing they say, all of a sudden they get canceled and then they just get like checked out on their ear.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because oftentimes it is just like winning the lottery. People that have a meteoric rise often do not have the skill sets built up to create something sustainable. So if you were to go ahead and have a one-hit wonder, a lot of people do not have the foresight to either invest most of those winnings or most of those earnings so they can create a passive income stream for themselves, or they don't know to create a brand and a business around it. They just go ahead and look at it at the face value as if it is the tip of the iceberg, completely disregarding the fact that the rest of the iceberg goes miles and miles down.
Oh my gosh, I have to show you. I have to tell you this, the basic premise of this thing I read like just last night.
Is it related?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. You can tell me later or
No.
tell me now.
I don't even remember. Some famous, I guess it was like a sports ball something or other. Anyway, he gets divorced from his woman and they have a baby. And instead of, setting up the whole child support thing, he pays her just $1 million, just boom.
One lump sum.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's upset.
Okay, what about it?
Because she thought she was going to have this as like,
A gravy train?
a gravy train pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
And just like, I'm like,
Was there a prenup involved?
like-
Is that what happened?
I don't know.
Okay.
Don't know. I just saw that like cursory thing and I'm just sitting there. It just made the wheels start turning. I was like, what an idiot. If she sits there and didn't see this as kind of like a glorified or, an unsubsidized welfare check, essentially.
Well, she sees it as she's earned it.
She sees it as just like she was expecting this kind of constant flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than if she, and I don't know much about anything. You mostly handle all of that kind of financial realm of stuff. So, but I know enough to know if she would just view that not as like the missed opportunity for, constant influx. If she saw that as seed money.
Right, but that takes work and that takes foresight to do something
Well,
with.
even just like pick up the phone and call like a financial planner, like call a financial advisor, like just that.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Just like, what a moron, actually.
Well, I mean, that's the case with most lottery winners is they don't find the advice and they don't have the conviction to go ahead and tell people no, right? Because oftentimes when a family finds out that
They
somebody
crawl
won
out
the
of the
lottery,
woodwork, yeah.
everybody comes out with their hand out and it's like, I'm sorry, what contribution did you make to my life to go ahead and earn this? It doesn't make sense. And don't get me wrong, like, hey, if we ever won the lottery, of course I'd buy my mom a house.
Yeah.
And she would be very comfortable for the rest of her life, right? And already, we're the best set up to take care of her anyway. So when my grandfather passes, chances are she's going to end up coming on down to Texas to come join us. And she'll be just fine.
Yeah. I mean, they already know, both of our mothers know, it's like we have that filial responsibility already in us to like, be able, but it's like, until then, go live your life. Like, go do what you need to do. And we don't need to like, but once that script flips, like you have to come on board to the way we live.
Sure.
Especially my mother.
Yeah, your mom, she's
mom's
an
crazy.
interesting character.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we talked a lot about patience and went all around. Let's get back to it.
Okay.
The next piece is about being lied about, but don't deal in lies. Or if you're being hated, don't give way to hating. If you are acting in accordance with your priorities, there will inevitably be haters and people that lie about your character. Yeah. That's just what it is. And a lot of it comes from envy, and that must be nice. Mm-hmm. Is they are unwilling to do the work that it caused you to attain this level of success. So it's much easier to push you down in the mud and savage your character than to actually do the work themselves.
And no matter how much you actually do invest into people, how much you relate to others or reach out to people or give up yourself in good faith, it doesn't matter. Ask me how I know.
Well, sure. But I think it's interesting because even among like internet influencers, you see beefs and rivalries all over the place. And it's interesting because you've got these people that, for the most part, have worked very hard to get to where they're at, and then they have beef with other people that have done the same, as opposed to having mutual respect. I think a lot of this just comes off to like little personal hot takes, and then people just farm it for content. Hopefully there's some communication in the background where people have like this understanding that it's not personal, it's just business. It kind of reminds me of like members of Congress, where in front of the cameras, they hate each other. But then after 5 o'clock, they all go to the same bars and same lounges to go ahead and hang out and actually talk through policy. I think that that's something that I see a lot in popular culture, is these influencers just getting at each other. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's like serious worldview things that they're talking through, then like by all means, have the arena of the public sphere to go ahead and hash those kind of things out.
But also like those kind of people who actually the whole basis of their content is to be ish stirrers.
Yes. And I think that's different from people that have a unifying message and then work off of, hey, we happen to have beefs and, we'll go ahead and react to content and then clip farm that. I think those are different things.
They are completely different.
If they weren't being incentivized to do those things, chances are they would find something else to be doing. So this whole stanza gets finished off with, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. And I think this goes back to humility, is understand that there may be some holes in your worldview, or there may be blind spots that you have. And it's important to speak with humility and understand that you may not have the whole picture. In fact, nobody really has the whole picture.
No, never.
And that's just a fact of life that we have to understand and acknowledge.
Especially starting to kind of wade into the higher levels of the world of like academia and stuff. I see less of what should be the viewpoint and more of pseudo-intellectualism.
Okay.
Like people go, well, I have a history degree, so I know everything. It's like, no. You have a history degree. You have no idea about the world of like the sciences or, like sociology and stuff like that. Like you don't have a holistic picture. You should be actually relying more on what other people have to say.
Well, I think that's just kind of how academia is built up. And I think that relying on credentialism is a really bad basis for argumentation, because then you're just arguing from authority. And most people's authority is really, really limited in terms of like higher education. So what if you have a bachelor's degree? You know about a fingertips depth about a subject. And if you have a PhD, you have a lot of knowledge on an increasingly narrow scope of things.
So myopic. It's
right?
Crazy.
Whereas you are much better off making sound arguments regardless of authority, and don't rely on it, because it's a logical fallacy. Just because you go ahead and have some kind of credential next to your name does not mean you're right. Let your point stand on its own. And if there's issue with it, let it get adjusted in the arena of public discourse. Far too few people are equipped to do that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next stanza. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim. I think, to me, it's be rooted but be open to the possibility that other things exist, and that it is important to think but don't get lost in the sauce.
Originally, when I read it, it set up this tension between, like your ambitions, your hopes and dreams and goals and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And reality. If you never cross that barrier of applying those hopes and dreams and all aspirations, and you get manifestation.
What, where you want to go ahead and you dream these things, but you never actually put the actions to work.
And if they happen to come to pass, you're like, I manifested it. No, you didn't. You lucked out.
Well, I guess it just depends on the amount of effort and action that's put behind it. This goes back to the discussion of luck, right? Is if you say that you manifested it and it happened to come up to you and you put no effort into it, sure. I would go ahead and say, dumb luck, broken clock is right twice a day. But if there's substantial effort put to it, I'm not going to go ahead and denigrate somebody's achievements just because they said something stupid to attribute their achievements to something that doesn't line up with what actually happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that if you don't make the effort to cross the barrier.
Right.
There is like definite here. And then when you meet in the middle, this is where literally the rubber meets the road.
The next piece is, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same.
I love this one. There was actually, okay. So real talk, these two came about and I was instantly reading them in my kids' like curriculum because, I have to stand up there once a week and kind of know what I'm talking about. So as soon as I started reading and annotating these, I was like, dude, you got to read these. And then you're like, oh, wow, okay.
There's something
Yeah,
to this.
there's some there. This one was one of the things where they asked some of those like little thinky thought questions.
Okay.
Like, how are these two things that are seemingly polar opposites?
What's the connection between them?
How are they both imposters?
Okay.
It was really cool having a conversation with our kids about these things, especially this part. We spent quite a bit on this one. If you marinate in either, you're dead in the water. You're not going to go anywhere. If you sit there and, rest on your laurels, you're admitting that you've peaked and you're done.
Right.
Like it's all the rest is downhill from here. And also if you wallow in disaster, you're just going to be an eternal victim and you're not going to go anywhere and you're going to just stay at the bottom. You're going to just take it lying down and you're never going to get up from that.
Okay, so I think you brought up something really interesting. The idea of both triumph and defeat are temporary conditions unless you go ahead and extend it. So defeat, if you go ahead and take it lying down, you can be defeated in perpetuity. If you are victorious, you can't continue in that unless you continue with more actions. It takes effort to continue to be victorious, whereas it does not take effort to continue to be affronted by disaster.
Yeah.
So I
Being
think there's a
victorious
difference.
as opposed to being a victor.
Correct. Right? You are a victor by continuously surmounting
A string
challenges.
of dubs, not just one.
Right. So I think that's the really clear element of truth to be had here is one of them requires continuous action and the other one does not and has lasting consequences.
Whereas you lose and then you lost and then now what?
And then you're a loser.
But then if you lost and you continue to be lost, you're a loser.
Absolutely. So here's the next piece. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. To me, that first bit is when you are standing on business, a lot of people will come out and twist the things you say. They will take an hour-long bit and they'll take a 15-second clip and they'll twist it all over humanity just to go ahead and make you look bad. Going back to the envy thing is rather than putting forth the effort to build something of meaning or of substance themselves, they would much rather go ahead and twist it. In twisting that truth, it becomes a trap for fools because other people that don't take the time to look into it, to know right from wrong or fact from fiction, they will get entrapped by that because they're not willing to open their eyes to the truth that's before them.
You spend years of your life walking the talk and then one person just drives by and says, something like overly simplistic about one thing that you said in years. And then the people that you've invested in all of a sudden believe that one thing from that one rando who's been there a hot minute.
Sure. This goes on to the next piece, which is watching the things that you've given your life to broken, right? Other people come and break your things. But if you have the character to have built them up in the first place, even with worn out tools, you have the ability to recreate it.
Definitely. Speaking from experience, there is an allure or almost the temptation to sit there and just browbeat and feel like stupid for having, kind of cast your pearls before swine, and kind of invested in people. And then they just show that they're just lemmings and they just go and do whatever else.
Sure.
And then it's just like, I'm a moron. But it's like, you know what? No, they are. I'm going to learn from this. And I'm going to make sure I find like my people that I don't have to be less with.
Yeah. I think something that's interesting about when other people break the things that you have built up, that you can stoop and build them up with worn out tools.
Worn out tools.
That tells me that, like, say for instance, we were to go broke, bam, at a drop in a hat, like Thanos snapping kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have all the confidence in the world that I could go ahead and turn it around. And I can go ahead and build it up better, faster, and stronger than it took the first time. Because I have the experience and I know how it was built in the first place, that I can recreate it using all the knowledge, tools, and abilities that I've accumulated along the way.
I know that too, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen you do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the trick.
Must be nice though, right?
Must be nice. All right, the next bit is, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. The start of this stanza works off of the end of the previous stanza,
one, yeah.
right? So the idea is some opportunities will come to you in life where it is worth putting everything into it to go ahead and take that swing at that at bat. Sometimes there will be a singular monumental change that when you step up to the plate and you hit that home run, you've set your life in motion for a whole new beginning. So many people are fearful of doing that thing. When we got started, we didn't have the capability to make big swings with conservative amounts like we can now. Mm-hmm. So there were times where I had to risk a lot of what we had and understand that if it lost, that I would have to go ahead and work even harder to replenish the funds to try and try again. By not being willing to take those shots, you end up limiting your upside potential. And when you lose, it's okay to take the L. You don't need to broadcast it all over all mankind, though there may be some utility in doing that if you are serving to show a lesson to somebody else. But the idea is to not lick your wounds and to go ahead and make it public facing for everyone as a matter of having people feel sorry for you.
To be a loser.
Right.
It's the same. So it works off of the last two things that we
absolutely.
went through.
That's a fact of life, is sometimes you're going to strike out and other times you'll hit a home run. Most often you're going to go ahead and hit a base hit.
Yeah.
Right?
That's okay.
That's okay. Base hits are great.
Small gains, man.
Small gains.
You're still moving the needle forward.
Absolutely.
And you can see that. And the biggest thing that this communicates is it is difficult to start. That is the scariest, most difficult part, is to start. And that's why most people never do.
Right.
But once you do, you can follow that upward trajectory. And sometimes you're just barely moving the needle, but sometimes it's like, whoa.
So speaking of that, we have a whole video that I went ahead and recorded about this very thing that's releasing, I guess. By the time this thing comes out, it'll have released last week. We'll go ahead and put it as a little card here that you can click on right over there. If you are at the beginning or you're starting at zero, it's a pretty decent roadmap. And life is hard when you have nothing, and I totally acknowledge that. But the trick is you have the power within you to go ahead and do something about it.
It's all got to come from somewhere. It's got to start somewhere.
And sometimes it's just about forging the hero within.
That's why we're here.
That's almost like why we're here. All right. The next bit is, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will that says to them, hold on. So this goes back to, sometimes you're going to go ahead and hit a crossroads and you're going to be tapped out. This kind of reminds me of Jesus and his temptations after 40 days and 40 nights of fasting. And then, bam, he gets hit with Satan coming and taking him and trying to go ahead and tempt him to go ahead and ruin the salvation of mankind. And I can imagine in that time that he was just incredibly worn out. I can't imagine what not eating for 40 days and 40 nights is like.
It would be difficult even in top human condition.
Right.
Like, you gotta think he's in this human container, so like there's a limitation already. But then now he is at the bottom of human existence, like just existing.
In terms of his strength.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, And that is the biggest thing is we're all mortal, we're all physical beings and we have needs, so you can't really do all that hard work and you can't go run a marathon if you're like
Emaciated.
emaciated, dehydrated, starving. Like you start that way.
Sure. That'd be a fool's errand.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But the point that we're trying to get into is that even when those conditions are going, if you are on your mission, it is important that you do not give up. Because when you give up, that's when you end up becoming a loser.
And that is why having a why in the first place, having a purpose, having a vision in the first place. What are you doing this for?
Right.
And if it's going to be for just like, so I can have a wife and a family. No, please don't do that. Please, I'm being a wife and a mother. Please don't do it just for that.
Yeah, because then you end up pedestalizing all of that and you don't have a transcendent purpose. Because if things go awry in that piece, without a transcendent purpose, you're going to see the lowest of lows if you've put your faith in things that are incredibly fallible.
Yeah. Hot take, like just in a nutshell, I don't want a man who just exists for me. I don't want a man who even exists for my kids. I want a man who exists that I support in a mission, and our kids will, by extension, benefit if they're here for it.
Right.
If they're gonna do their own job, go off. That's fine. But honestly, I want the man and the mission rather than being the mission.
Don't do it for the hose, gentlemen. Do not do it for the hose.
You become Captain Save-A-Ho. See? Don't become Captain Save-A-Ho.
There you go. All right. Moving on to the next stanza. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. So this goes back to talking about, hey, being a man of the people and being able to adjust yourself to your environment and keeping your convictions in each of those environments, right? Even if you're just talking to the common man, it's important to speak to them on their level and to not lose yourself and realize that you're never too big for your britches.
That's what I did make sure when the kids and I discussed this, like making sure that they knew what being out of touch was, because this speaks directly to that, especially because they are going to start life ostensibly in a place of privilege.
Right. Which is completely different than how we started life.
Yes. But it's interesting because I do remember when they were like older children, so they started to have a sense of how the world works, but not quite. Because you just see these extra things where it's just like, oh, this broke. Can we just go buy a new one? I'm like, oh, no. I was like, first of all, child, your audacity is, I'm going to need you to put that back.
Sure. I just thought it was funny how, like, whenever it was fixable, we'd be like, no, you're going to fix it. And here you go. Here's YouTube. Here's the video. Go do it.
Our son really latched onto that. It's so funny because now it's like, hey, this thing broke. Can I borrow YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely.
They do not have their own devices with unabridged access to YouTube. So,
but it's just one of those things where, like, we empowered them to do something and to create value from which nothing existed.
I love that. I love that. And like even our oldest daughter now, she wants to take on more of the not necessarily home management. Like she started like coming alongside with like the meal planning and even some of the cooking and stuff. And it's so interesting to kind of see her start to take, hey, I've always loved sushi. Can I make it? Can I make my own? I was like, absolutely you can.
Yeah, let's go buy ingredients. Let's go ahead and set you up with a recipe. Let's set you up with a process. Explore.
Now she wants to do it like every week. It's so funny. I'm like, oh, girl, okay, gotta make sure this fish does not go to waste.
Sure. Hey, man, I'd be down for sushi every week. If
she made some. It's at the house right now.
Sweet. Let's go ahead and try some later. So if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. That's an interesting piece because I think that goes ahead and says about standing on business and knowing that even sometimes your friends might not see things the same way you do. And if they are amiss, it's okay to bring them alongside and show them the error of their ways. but to be open to the fact that you might be wrong. Turns out that we're not right all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just about having the humility of knowing that what you do know and what you don't know.
It's one thing for, people who are haters and whatever to just go, meh, 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 meh. It's like, yes, I get it. But to actually have a friend come tell you, like an actual friend come tell you, loving friends, so in love, come tell you, I don't know what you're doing here. It's an entirely different, it hits different, right?
Sure.
To have somebody who ostensibly is invested in your success, who cares for you, tell you, I don't know about this. And, navigating that is really the mark of a great friendship.
Right.
I love having that sentiment built into that.
All right. And let's finish out strong for this poem. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So it finishes out with the idea of being industrious and to go ahead and make sure that every minute counts. And I think that's a lesson that is far too lax in today's society, is a lot of times people are working for an hourly wage and they're just looking at the clock, and not because they get paid by the hour, they don't care what goes into each minute. Whereas if you're on the hook for it and your time is valuable, every minute counts. So if you go ahead and start with the premise that every minute counts as your baseline assumption for life, your productivity will be so much more because of that.
It's one of the best parts of Stoic philosophy right there. Memento mori and amor fati.
Okay?
Embracing your fate and remembering your death.
Okay. Thank you for letting people know, because most people don't know.
I just wanted to let it marinate first, okay?
Cool.
They're like, what? But, if you've been to Disney World, the shop outside of the Haunted Mansion is called the Memento Mori. So
Cool.
Just in case you didn't know why.
So to wrap up this poem, the overarching themes associated with it, the advice to a young man was that of virtue, self-mastery, humility, and self-control. And it provided the intended result of that, which is respect and success, which is not really all that different from today, but it's expressed differently.
It is. We need that. We need an infusion of a different voice, even if it's a different voice because it's from a different time.
Sure.
It reminds you that some things are universal, are eternal, and like, what was that thing I read where it's like traditional, like something that's traditional is not necessarily bad because it's old.
Right. I mean, there's a logical fallacy associated with that, where just because something is old-fashioned doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. As a last shot here, I love talking philosophically about universal like truth, as in capital T.
Sure. I gotcha.
So I love that the way that the last line concludes is saying man, capital M.
Yes.
And that just brings all of it full circle.
Great. Now let's go ahead and move on to the girls thing. So go ahead and read If for Girls.
If for Girls by James P. McAvoy. If you can hear the whispering about you and never yield to deal in whispers too. If you can bravely smile when loved ones doubt you and never doubt in turn what loved ones do. If you can keep a sweet and gentle spirit in spite of fame or fortune, rank or place, and though you win your goal or only near it, can win with poise and lose with equal grace. If you can meet with unbelief, believing, and hallow in your heart a simple creed, if you can meet deception, undeceiving, and learn to look to God for all you need, if you can be what girls should be to mothers, chums in joy, comrades in distress, and be unto others as you'd have the others be unto you, no more and yet no less. If you can keep within your heart the power to say that firm, unconquerable no. If you can brave a present shadowed hour, rather than yield to build a future woe. If you can love, yet not loving master, but keep yourself within your own self's clasp, and not let dreaming lead you to disaster, nor pity's fascination lose your grasp. If you can lock your heart on confidences, nor ever needlessly in turn confide. If you can put behind you all pretenses of mock humility or foolish pride. If you can keep the simple, homely virtue of walking right with God, then have no fear that anything in all the world can hurt you, and which is more, you'll be a woman dear.
Nice. All right. The general thrust of this poem, while it is dense, I think that it has more delightful simplicity than the one for the men.
As it should.
Right. So, first stanza. If you can hear the whispering about you and never yield to deal in whispers too, you can bravely smile when the loved ones doubt you and never doubt in turn what loved ones do. So,
it's a lot of elements in the first stanza of the original in there.
Right. And I think that in this case, you're talking about gossip more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right. Because like we discussed earlier, when dudes have conflict with one another and things go sideways, it can go to blows. Whereas with women, chances are they are just stabbing each other in the back and they fight in the shadows with cloak and dagger. And it's important to go ahead and know when your loved ones care for you, but to understand where their love is coming from and not to go ahead and doubt their love if that they have proven over a long period of time that there's a track record. And I think in the husband-wife relationship, it's one of those things where we've talked about this where, hey, if something comes up and it hits you wrong, maybe it's time to go ahead and step back and consider, does this man love you and does he want the best for you? And if so, maybe you're not seeing the whole picture.
It's one thing to once we're done and go and compare contrast the other with the other one and all that stuff. But I think it's good to frame this from the get-go here that although the original has a lot of things that are obviously speaking to boys / men about what they do, this is talking about how to be.
Well, right. And that's a fundamental difference between how men and women are typically valued is men are typically valued for what they do and what they provide, whereas women are typically valued for who they are and what they exude. Right.
But so it's important to be like, well, this isn't the same, but it's not supposed to be.
The next piece. If you can keep a sweet and gentle spirit in spite of fame or fortune, rank or place, and though you win your goal or only near to it, can win with poise and lose with equal grace. The idea is to go ahead and have a consistent expression, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, you are lowly or you are in power, and to have grace in all your circumstances, whether you win or whether you lose, to be graceful and humble in both circumstances.
Yeah, and it calls back to the original about, the outcomes of things not staying there. And the first part of it talking about how people, especially in female circles, they'll, very cloak and dagger, passive aggressive, try to move in the shadows kind of thing. And it's interesting that this gives you a similar, working sort of in that same kind of unspoken way to react to that.
Okay.
So people making moves over there, and all that, character assassination and stuff. And when they do that, you just go, okay. And you just walk away.
Sure.
So not a lot of even, arguments back and forth, especially on the internet. It's like, look, man, you can type out this heated response, but before you hit send, go, do I really even need to?
Now that takes some temperance, right? Because
it does.
A lot of people do not have the self-control to stop, think, and then push the button. Most of the time, people are just furiously trying to go ahead and argue their point and then go, send, I got that person. They're the worst, and I showed everybody they're the villain.
I've definitely, probably in the last few years, I've really worked on practicing that more. It's like, do I even need to? Like, okay, let them think I'm wrong. That's okay.
Right.
It's some rando on the internet, especially. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
You don't pay my bills.
There you go. Okay. Next stanza. If you can meet with unbelief, believing, and hallow in your heart a simple creed. If you can meet deception, undeceiving, and learn to look to God for all you need. This is just one of those things where even when things are really crazy, it's important to hold to your faith. And when people come to you with deceptions, don't go forward to deceive the next person.
It's interesting to have like these little adages and cliches. They're almost like cliche. But it's actually true right here. Know who you are and know whose you are.
Right.
Whether it be in the eternal sense or in the human sense.
Sure.
I know whose I am.
If you can be what girls should be to mothers, chums in joy, and comrades in distress, and be unto others as you'd have others be unto you, no more and no less. I think it's interesting because the first thing about being like to mothers reminds me of one of Paul's letters where it talks to people about rejoicing with those who rejoice and weeping with those who weep. And then
Have no greater joy than to know that my children are rejoicing in the truth.
right. And
Or
then
walking in the truth.
and then the last piece is very clearly an allusion to the golden rule.
Yeah. But for girls,
Right.
human being, not a human doing.
Correct.
Be unto others, not to do unto others. And this is one of those clear flashing lights that tells you that when you are talking about womanhood and femininity, it is who you are, not what you do.
Right.
Just like in the world of women, a lot of it is not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right. There you go.
It's all there. There it is.
Cool. The next piece is if you can keep within your heart the power to say that firm, unconquerable no, you can brave a present shadowed hour rather than yield to build a future woe. If you can love yet not loving master, but keep yourself within your own self's clasp and not let dreaming lead you to disaster, nor pity's fascination lose your grasp. I think it's interesting how it talks about being steadfast and to confront any affront to your purity, I think is really what they're getting to in terms of a firm, unconquerable no.
It's part of knowing who you are.
Right.
And it's interesting because I think a lot of even modern women can they'll resonate with this. No means no, right? But it's yes, but also boundaries, like to hold a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of, what women are trying to, but they almost overcompensate it, like I can say no, whatever. It's like, no. If you know ahead of time, before you even hit any kind of this circumstance, that circumstance, doesn't matter. If you know who you are and what you're about, and when people hit that line, you start saying no with your chest.
Sure. It's really funny that you brought up that got me thinking that a lot of times people have rules for some and not for others.
It was for me, but not for thee.
Well, it's not even that. It's like,
It was for thee, not for me. Sorry.
well, there's that piece. But even further, I think a lot of women will go ahead and say that they've got rules and boundaries. And then for the right guy, they're like, oh, I don't know about what rules. No, I just like this guy. Let's go.
Did we talk about that in the hypergamy episode?
We sure did. Reference hypergamy. Here's the card.
Yes,
Boom.
please. Sorry.
You make rules for betas and you break rules for alphas.
Don't say that. Shh. I know I'm kind of a processor and I'm putting in a little bit more chaotic energy. I'm sorry.
Bring it in. Let's
go. I wanted to kind of highlight the whole be what girls should be to mothers.
Okay, so you want to go back to the last stanza.
Yeah.
All right.
So parenting, is tough and you have to kind of put on the mom hat and show them how it's done. But hopefully by the time that, girls become teenagers, you can be more friendly.
Okay.
And then by the time that they are adults, you can be friends.
Yeah.
I very, very much look forward to all my children, but especially my daughters, when we can be friends.
Yeah.
because I've experienced that with my own mother. It was very difficult, navigating that relationship in a single mother environment, especially being an only child.
Right.
And, but my mom did really, in that specific circumstance, show me how to be friendly without being my friend.
Correct.
And now we are the greatest of friends. And I love that. I love that about us. I mean, she drives me out the wall sometimes, and I'm pretty sure I do too. So, but that's part of it, where we are committed to forging a relationship as the seasons go on. And she's now come alongside me as a grandmother, as a Thelma and Louise, man, we can still go real hard with that. But especially in the realm of parenting, like, she's a great one to come alongside, especially now as I have a teenage daughter. It is so fun. And now I am seeing that phase of a relationship with my own eldest daughter, that we are very friendly. And it almost looks like we are friends sometimes, but I still pull out the "I'm your mama. You need to," it's like, the way you're talking to me, you need to start over. Like, literally walk out and come back in and start over, because no.
Sure.
I can't wait to that kind of thing where it's chums in joy and comrades in distress.
Sure.
It's beautiful.
That is beautiful. So going back to the idea of the unconquerable no, the next piece is talking about being brave in a present shadowed hour rather than yield to build a future woe.
Every woman knows what that is. Everybody knows what that is. It's that security gland going out of control, pulsating, and taking over your entire brain.
Sure. And you go ahead and freak out about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that security gland leads women to do incredibly dumb things and can ruin their future as a result of it.
Yes.
And I think that this is an encouragement for, even when things get rough, to look to what the consequences will be and to make a proper choice.
Yeah. What am I really doing this for? Am I doing it out of fear? That's a problem.
Well, and it reminds me of women that get bored in marriage and then decide to divorce their spouse. And then 2 years later, they see that the man has moved on in life.
And they get mad about it.
And they get mad about it. And it's like, look, you went ahead and sent him away. Now you have the consequences of your choices. There you go. Congratulations. You've decided to not brave a present shadowed hour, and now you've built a future woe.
Congratulations. Enjoy that.
There you go. Keep yourself within your own self's clasp, and yet not let dreaming lead you to disaster, nor pity's fascination loosen your grasp.
Yeah. Loose your grasp. Know who you are.
Yeah, it's maintaining self-control, too, and not losing who you are. And it's interesting, and not let dreaming lead to your disaster. We literally just talked about this. It's like if you get bored in your relationship, and then you go ahead and go dreaming about what life will be like when you go ahead and get divorced, and then all of a sudden reality just hits you right in the face.
Especially if you have friends who are newly woman thou art loosed, and they like tout
they put all the things in your ears,
the gloriousness of newfound freedom and stuff. No. At least if you're going to talk to somebody who has experience with divorce, talk to the ones that are 5-10 years down the road.
Sure. And get the real talk. Don't go ahead and just get the surface level stuff. Let's see. Last stanza. If you can lock your heart on confidences, nor ever needlessly turn in confide, if you can put behind you all pretenses of mock humility or foolish pride. This is like guarding your heart and making sure that you don't spill your guts to just anyone.
Yeah.
And just making sure that you have friends that are ride or die before letting them in on things.
Yeah. We've talked about, when we talked about bringing up boys, how you should not, even in a committed relationship, even in your first few years of committed marriage, you should not just
go shields down.
Fly. Yeah, let it fly, because every woman has the capacity to just weaponize everything they know about you. Everything that they've shared in confidence, all the more is it going to be with friends, female friends.
Right. Well, because we know female nature for what it is they fight dirty. And if they have dirt on you and something goes sideways, they have no issue whatsoever using that dirt on you.
Even in years, like even over a number of years, they will use everything they can when they don't get their way.
Yeah.
They will go full scorched earth. And I am so glad in what I thought were deep friendships gone awry. I never, ever, they sat there and spilled all the tea with what was annoying them about their husbands and their kids, all of this. Like I have heard some stuff that made my ears kind of burn a little bit. I'm like, why are you telling me this? I know we've been friends for a while, but wow, that's dark. But I have never gone and returned return fire kind of thing. And I'm so glad.
Sure.
And I mean, like, honestly, there was never anything like that. I was like,
yeah.
But also, because I am this kind, I would never want to even waste my energy doing that to somebody else. That is, to me, it just makes my inside, it just makes me sick just to think about how do people do that to each other.
So the next bit is about putting aside your pretenses of mock humility and foolish pride. So live a virtuous life, because humility will go ahead and buttress so many things in your life. If you were just humble, most people will give you benefit of the doubt. Most reasonable people can accept making a mistake from time to time and being willing to reconcile.
And in this culture of like go out and girl boss and all of that stuff, it's so interesting to juxtapose the phrase simple, homely virtue. That will make every feminist like skin crawl right
Sure.
there. It's like, oh no. But it's so interesting how even if they'd even just try it, how it's like, it's so freeing. It's so restful. It's so peaceful. It's like, what was I so angry and had a chip on my shoulder about everything? Like, why?
Well, I think most of the time they don't have the space to put down their arms and armor.
And even when they do, they don't recognize that. They don't trust it.
Sure. It goes back to like the idea of not handing away their security gland for someone else to safekeep it.
But I think it's largely because this culture has sold them these lies.
Yeah.
It makes me sad. It really does.
Sure. And then talking about walking right with God, then have no fear. The idea is virtuous living expels fear, because if you are living in a virtuous manner, it's very easy to stand up on business and to say the truth. Whereas people that have lies and have nothing to show for themselves have such a hard life because they don't have anything to show for themselves and because they can't stand on truth. So they have to manufacture all these things to make themselves feel better because they don't have anything to be proud of. And the last bit, that anything in the world can hurt you, and which is more, you'll be a woman dear. And by having all the things that we talked about, the world will not have power over you, and you will be a virtuous woman.
Capital W. Again.
There you go.
Capital W. Also, I love, especially modern poetry where you really do have to rack your brain and work hard to like figure out why there are, small letters, lowercase letters and, the weird spacing and stuff is for a purpose. Essentially, this is 1924 is like modern poetry. So what I think is interesting is it says you'll be a capital woman, capital W.
Yep.
Comma, dear. You're not, it's not calling this woman dear, actually. It's saying you will be a woman who is dear.
Correct.
To someone, which again is the fundamental need of women.
To know and to be known. Yep.
To be acceptable and to be valued by someone. And that is the whole thing, setting up your value. You will be valuable here.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because if you look at the overarching themes of this poem, I see things like faith, moral steadfastness, inner work, right? It isn't about how you affect the environment or the challenges you surmount. It's about who you are at your core and about working on yourself within.
Which, like modern female culture, has right. But
In a weird way, they do.
Their efforts are misdirected.
Okay. What about that?
It is for the temporal. It is and it's definitely for the temporal and the self-serving.
Okay.
Like just me, myself, and I.
So you're saying it's hedonistic in its nature, as opposed to...
Hedonistic and nihilistic.
As opposed to where if you're going ahead and taking this on, it is not about hedonism. It's about creating a worthwhile life and a life worth living and a partner worth being with.
And I mean, even if somehow that never works out, you don't exist in a bubble. Nobody ever does. There's always a sphere of influence you occupy. So it talks about things like being a good friend, being an influential person on others, being, and you in this whole thing about knowing who you are and having your own personal moral compass. People see that and you model these kinds of things. And even if you don't verbally say it, people don't actually ask you, people see it and people respond to that.
Yeah, they feel a certain warmth that comes from this.
Don't you want to be around somebody like this inner peaceful? There's just people who just exude this warmth, whether or not, and this stable, I don't know, stable, but this kind of calm, anchoring peace about them.
Yeah.
And I love these people, especially for me, being like I am. I always want to be those kinds of people. And I probably, I'm never going to stop trying, but I probably will never get there.
I don't know. I think you
This
sell
side of
yourself
heaven.
short. I think that you have adopted a lot of these character traits over time.
It's true.
And that you develop them over time. And that sometimes you get in your emotions and your emotions will go ahead and lead you to do silly things where you just need a little bit of assistance to get back into order.
I do love these people who are like that kind.
Sure. But they didn't come by it without effort.
No, definitely not.
Right. So I would say, going back to the culmination of this, the rewards for acting in accordance with this advice are things like moral purity, inner peace, and social harmony. So this goes back to men's hierarchies and women's hierarchies, how women's hierarchies are usually level in nature.
On the outside.
Well, right. But I mean, that's the social harmony piece.
But this ideal kind of
if you are exuding
environment.
these character traits and you are doing these things to be this woman, it will positively affect social harmony.
Yeah. Whereas, the men's one, you see these are the people who lead. These
Right.
are the people who rise to the cream of the crop. This just wants to dwell in harmony with everyone.
Yeah. And I think that's the fundamental thing to go ahead and really look at is it is giving you advice to operate in different hierarchies. Because like we said, the women are the flat hierarchy and the men, they have a pyramid type of hierarchy where the higher you ascend, the better off your life will be. Whereas in the women's hierarchy, you benefit from matching energy with the tribe and then very calmly sticking out to the right kind of guy.
Yeah.
Because the right kind of guy is looking for certain things. And some things will make you stick out like a sore thumb in a good way.
Yeah.
Having these character traits are among them.
And that's why there's all of these indicators of drawing fire.
Yeah.
From the people that you are just naturally going to be abrasive toward or to them,
Just by your existence.
In their perception, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you are becoming a mirror to them.
Yeah, people don't like looking at themselves in the mirror if they haven't done the work to appreciate themselves for who they are and to go ahead and be proud of who they've become.
So the last part that I, when we kind of put our heads up from all of this, when I was talking about this with the kids, it's funny because they really latched onto this. Like, it seems like it's very complementarian here, and there's like parts that these people want that this person wants. I'm like, yes, these are these girls and women. These are the kinds of queens that those kings are looking for.
Right. It's almost like men and women are complementary in their nature, and that we're better together than we are apart. But there's certain things that men have to develop within themselves, and through tests and challenges and trials and tribulations, whereas women, their challenges are often within, not without.
Mm-hmm. Again, I keep saying that a lot, actually, here. I keep saying that women need to get out of their own way.
Sure.
Those future woes and all of that.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and land the plane at this point. Mm-hmm. So we've got some timeless wisdom from the 20th century where we've got a picture of advice from a father to a son that if you follow that advice, you're going to do wonderful things. And no matter what line of endeavor that you're involved in, these character qualities, when exuded, and these actions when taken, will develop you into a man of sound character. And on the women's side, if you were to go ahead and take to these processes and to hone your character in such a way that you will be a wonderful person to a great society and somebody that others will want to be with and to befriend and to seek counsel from.
Don't come in the comments and say, oh, well, this girl's one was written by a man, so we're just going to discount all of it. Like,
there's a couple of feminist ones that were written. We're not interested in those. Like, we read through them and we're like, this is crazy stuff. It's like, there's no way.
Just if you apply some critical thinking here, like, this man had to have seen these characteristics from somewhere.
Right.
He had a mom, at least. He probably had a few other women in his life, too, that he saw these things from. So, just because it was written by a man, don't even.
That goes back to logical fallacies, right?
Yes.
Like, just
Please
because
stop.
Just because you're a dude doesn't mean you can't make commentary about women, because you can go ahead and make observations about the world around you. It's just what it is. We can see what things are and what things are not. So, this has been some good times from good old 20th century, making a comeback.
Poetry Corner.
Poetry Corner with Mike and Dawn. If you'd like to see more from this podcast, you can go ahead and see it right over here. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit on the subscribe button right over here.
And welcome.
And welcome to the party. Let's go ahead and forge the hero within together. Make it a great day.